The story of humanity has always been a constant struggle for resources and for power, and it is evident that humans will go to great lengths to obtain both of those things, including war and violence. When one gains control over a valuable resource, they will want to keep control over it for as long as possible, and those who do not have control of it will want to rise up and take control for themselves. This is proven in an article written by the ASSOCHAM Bulletin in 2011. The article describes time during a battle in Libya where rebels fought for control over an oil refinery. This battle positively affected the attackers, but the people who were in power before were affected in a negative way. As it was a very important asset for their country, it contains Libya's second largest hydrocarbon complex and is where the country's main oil feeds into for refining. While it may seem this could have been avoided by using diplomacy, there's proof that diplomacy does not always settle agreements about natural resources. Violence is often inspired by control over natural resources, but is not something that happens immediately. Different nations will often try to use diplomacy to avoid violence. However, when they begin to disagree over a topic like natural resource control, it could lead to war between nations. Amy Harder explains this in an article she wrote in 2012 that explains a discord among companies that produce electricity, and how the switch to renewable energy is negatively affecting companies that previously produced electricity by using coal, and preventing the switch from coal to natural gas rather than renewable clean energy. Many countries across the world rely on non-renewable energy sources to power their infrastructure and control their economy, but the non-renewable sources are slowly destroying the planet. The different organizations that disagree on whether or not they should maintain the economy with non-renewables or protect the planet with renewable energy sources have led to such a state of disagreement that it is very likely that they could go into a state of full-scale war. The rocky relationship between the world's most influential environmental groups and the natural gas industry is headed towards full-scale combat. This passion over natural resources ties into the ASSOCHM article about the Libyan rebels' siege of the oil refinery. As tensions rise between different groups, conflict will ensue in order to gain control over a natural resource. It is evident that control over natural resources will lead to violence due to the history of mankind and events happening now. History has always been a fight over natural resources, as seen in an article written in 2007 by Nick Middleton. He highlights the gruesome history that humans have of fighting over land and natural resources. He even states that there is no doubt that countries have fought over natural resources throughout history. There are many factors that can lead up to fighting over natural resources. As seen in the article by Amy Harder, she gives direct evidence explaining current events that could lead to full-scale combat between nations, just because one of them has control over the natural resources in the area. In Salt by Mark Kurlansky, the violent history of salt is brought to the attention of the reader. It's something that we see as an everyday item. Many ancient civilizations valued this material more than gold. Because of this, the great nations at the time sought to seize control over the commodity, but when they disagreed over who got control of the natural resource, it led to brutal wars between the countries. Humans have always found something to fight over throughout the course of history, one of the major things being natural resources. Whether it be oil, natural gas, or even salt, there will always be violence behind the search for control over natural resources.